Hi everyone, I'm going to take you through a presentation on Instagram, and I'm hoping that by the end of this that you'll be armed with all the information you need to be an Instagram guru and make a big success on the platform. So what is Instagram? Well, it's a mobile platform that launched just over a decade ago in October 2010, and it was described as being what would happen if Flickr and Twitter had a baby when it first came out. So it uses the photo experience of Flickr, the online photographic portal, with the sort of real-time conversation element of Twitter. So the app itself has evolved a fair bit over the last 10 years, and I'll touch upon that in the next few slides. But certainly when it launched, that's kind of the intent. It was kind of a social media, instantaneous, conversational version of Flickr, if you like, through a mobile app experience. And for most of the last 10 years, it's been the fastest growing mobile app. It's the growth of Instagram is truly phenomenal. It was bought by Facebook fairly early on, actually, a couple of years after it launched. And Facebook paid what was thought at the time to be an obscene amount of money, $1 billion, for an app which was 2 years old, had not achieved any profit, and only had 13 employees. And a lot of industry watchers thought Facebook was a little bit crazy. But when you look at the growth rates of Instagram and how fast it's grown since, you can see it clearly made a lot of sense, as the company is now worth over $100 billion in estimation. So a very smart strategic purchase by Facebook 8 years ago. A few stats about Instagram to show how big the platform is and why it's so successful. Well, one of the reasons for its success is it has a higher per post engagement rate than any other social platform. And on average, it's 58 times more engagement per follower than Facebook. So your followers on Instagram are much more likely to engage with you than the people that you know on Facebook per post on average. There are over 1 billion monthly active users. That's 3 times higher than Twitter. And in fact, only Facebook and WhatsApp are bigger than Instagram. They have more than 500 million daily users. I mean, the numbers are just staggering. Every single day, over 100 million photos and 400 million stories are uploaded to Instagram. The numbers are mind-boggling. A few more stats. 50 billion photos have now been posted onto Instagram. Now, that was a stat that I found that was dated back to about October 2020. So that number is clearly much, much higher than that now. 4 billion photos are liked daily on Instagram. 71% of businesses used Instagram. And again, that stat is a few months old, and that could surely only have grown further. Instagram is now seen as quite an integral tool for businesses. As the traditional media is playing a much smaller role than in the old days, and platforms moving digitally, advertisers moving digitally, and social media, in particular Instagram, for services and products where photographic or videos are a great way to showcase the product, then Instagram totally makes sense within a social media ad campaign. 80% of users follow at least one business. So again, you can see why businesses are keen to make sure they have a presence on the platform. More and more Instagram followers are starting to connect with businesses, and it's a great way of showcasing. 91% of posts are photos and 9% of videos. So about 9 out of 10 posts on Instagram are pictures. Videos take up about 9%, and in stories, the mix is much more heavily weighted to videos. Videos are very commonly used in people's stories. One of the great things about videos on Instagram is that they have a much higher rate of engagement. Short form videos, typically 15 or 30 seconds, are more likely to be seen on Instagram than perhaps the same type of video footage on other platforms. So if we look at the way that Instagram has evolved over the last few years. In 2010, as we said, the app launched. Hashtags, which are very, very critical, important components of the way Instagram works, were added in the first year of release. And that effectively is a feature that came from Twitter. Clearly, Twitter devised the idea of using hashtags in social media, Instagram were fairly quick to copy that feature. A couple of years later, video sharing was added, so the platform was just photographs for the first couple of years. And then around about 2012, Vine was starting to get some huge traction in the market, which was a platform where 7-second videos were shown, in a way a little bit like a forerunner of TikTok today. So video sharing was added in 2013. More image editing tools were added in 2014, so there were filters before then, but more things you could do with your photos were added later. Stories were added in 2016, and that was a feature copied from Snapchat, as Snapchat themselves were starting to get real market traction again around about 2015, 2016, and Stories was a very key feature of Snapchat. Also in 2016, live video broadcasting up to 1 hour was added, a feature effectively that Facebook had been running with and rolled out to Instagram. In 2017, multiple photo postings were available, so like a slideshow or carousel feature, you could post up to 10 images in a single post, and viewers can skip through them. In 2018, Instagram television was added. Initially that launched with 10-minute videos, and now that's been expanded up to 60 minutes. So you'll see a short preview video in the post, and then you can click on the IGTV button, and that'll take you to see the longer form video, which can be up to 60 minutes. And that's effectively trying to compete against the huge growth of user-uploaded videos on YouTube. And then in 2020, Reels were added. And these are short-form videos effectively trying to compete with TikTok. So all the way through their evolution, as the app has evolved, they've copied the best features from the fastest growing social media platforms that are effectively potentially competitors to them. And in a couple of instances, certainly in the case of Vine folded after about 3-4 years, and effectively Instagram was able to destroy the competition and remain relevant and keep growing. So that seems to be very much part of their strategy as the app evolves. So why is Instagram so popular? It's huge, and they've copied more features from social platforms to keep themselves relevant. But why is it just intrinsically so popular? Well, it's mobile, it's easy, it's fast, and it's real time. The filters, particularly in the early days of Instagram, everyone was using their filters, and it kind of made your photo look instantly professional. You give it a nice vintage look just with a click of a button, and suddenly an average photo taken on your mobile phone could actually look pretty decent. It's a friendly social media platform. It's one of the best in terms of communities of photographers that like the same subjects. It has a familiarity about it. One of the benefits of taking features from other platforms that are popular is that there is a familiarity about those features. So everyone knows what a hashtag is because of Twitter. We all know how to use the like and comments because of Facebook. So that familiarity actually helps, I think, in terms of usage. It's fairly quick to get used to Instagram, even though they do often change the features around and the layouts around fairly frequently. It doesn't take too long to get to grips with them because we have the basic sort of knowledge of how these social media platforms work and how certain functions are supposed to work. You have a worldwide connection with Instagram, which is unlike really any other platform. You can tag your photos with a country or location that they were taken in. You can hashtag any sort of place around the world that's relevant to your photographs, and you can tap into communities that are in those countries, and they will see your photos appear. So it's a great way of connecting with photographers around the world. So it's a wonderful platform for that. It's easy to share your images from Instagram over to other social media sites. For instance, it's very easy built in to post your pictures from Instagram straight onto Facebook or to share them on Twitter, etc. And it's free. There's no charge. There's no hidden costs. Instagram is a nice, free and easy platform. Why I personally like Instagram? Well, I think for me it's a great way to share my best photos via a photo-centric app. I'm less keen than some about some of these new features, actually. I prefer Instagram when it was primarily a photographic focused app. I'm not particularly interested in short form videos, for instance. And I think it is a little bit of a shame the way the app has evolved. But at its heart, it's a great way of sharing your best photos via an app that is still primarily photo-centric. It's a wonderful way of following different photographers and communities of photography that you like. So I'm a big fan of street photography, so I follow quite a few street photography communities and hubs, and they're fantastic. You get so much inspiration by other photographers and the photographic work that they post. So it's probably the best platform there is in terms of discovery of different genres of photo. It's satisfying to have your photographs liked and comments made. Vain though that sounds, one of the reasons that Instagram has been so popular is because people kind of got obsessed about how many likes they had and how many followers they had. And I think that's, to a certain extent, that's been detrimental, and that's a shame. And I think a lot of people have had their mental health problems because they're upset that they didn't get enough followers, or their post hasn't got enough likes or whatever. But you have to say it is nice to have some acknowledgement from your peers on your photos. So if you have followers and if you have your posts liked, it is a nice, satisfying feeling for that to happen. So you just don't want to be obsessive about it, but there's no denying that the human response to having somebody like one of your photographs is a positive one. And you can build a real sense of community. There are quite a few people that I follow and who follow me, and we sort of complement each other's photos very often, and you do start to build up this sense of community. And through the stories feature, where people post often a little bit more personal things about themselves, they might post more behind the scenes photos or little updates on what they're doing today, you do get much more of a sense of community on Instagram than you do, again, on almost any other social media platform. It's quick and easy to do, and I've kind of streamlined my workflow so that I'm not spending too long updating Instagram each day. So it's quick and easy, and there's certainly ways you can streamline, making it even more so. And the great thing about Instagram is it builds up over time, slowly, into this wonderful online portfolio of images. So I've got, I don't know what my latest count is, but something like 1,500 or 1,400 images, I think, on Instagram. And, that's taken me 6 years or so to build up. But now it's this fantastic collection of photographs, and it's great to be able to go back and through them and see subjects I've taken, different processing techniques I've used over the years, subjects I've taken. And it just builds up into this fantastic portfolio of images. And that's quite satisfying, I have to say. So this is my Instagram page. So on the left is how my Instagram feed appears in a browser. So you can look at Instagram on a PC or a Mac through a web browser. And this is how it looks. You can't, however, I don't think you can anyway, post images from the web browser. I think you need to use the app to do that. But certainly you can go in and look at somebody's feed through a web browser once you've logged in. And then on the right-hand side is how it looks on my iPhone. And that bottom piece is the timeline, and you can scroll through that and see all your posts. And then if you click on the home key bottom left, you'll see then the main feed of everybody's photographs that you follow. So the app is quite intuitive, very easy to use. And as I mentioned earlier, it's great for discovery. So for instance, using the search tab, if I want to look at accounts for street photography, I could type in street, and you can see there lots of different street photography hubs and communities come up. So if I looked at, say, Street Gallery magazine, I thought, well, that's a nice one, I'll check that one out. I can click on that, I can click then the blue button to follow that if I want. And this particular one has images that are curated from lots of different street photographers. And you'll see also when I follow that, that other suggestions come up. So on that third image along, you can see 3 or 4 other suggested ones come up because I've liked that particular hub. And I can click on see all, and then I can see a whole list of other hubs similar to Street Gallery magazine that I might be interested in following. So I can look at each of those and follow any of that I like. So the discoverability that's built into Instagram is phenomenal and really second to no other platform. So what I'm going to do now is just take you through 8 tips for success on Instagram. These are things that I found have made a difference or are essential really if you want to just have some chance of being discovered on Instagram. Happy to say that some of these tips I know that I should be doing them, but I don't always do them enough, and I'll mention that as I go through. There's some of these things that are essential really if you want to be successful, and as I say, I don't always have the time to do it, so I should get better at this. But these are my 8 recommended tips. So tip 1 is to post regularly and in a rhythm so that your followers really know when to expect to post. I try and post one image a day, and I usually aim to do that at the same time each day. Sometimes I'll post a couple of images a day, and if I do that, I might do one in the morning and one in the evening. But I try and get into a rather regular rhythm of posting. Certainly, one thing I recommend you don't do is to not do anything for months on Instagram and then suddenly go and post 10 pictures all in one go. Because what will happen is you'll just dilute the possible likes that you might have had. So I often get the same photographers that will like my posts when it's once a day. But if I were to post 10 in a row, perhaps my followers might only like 2 or 3 of them, the 2 or 3 that they really like, and they might ignore the other 8. I've got a much better chance of receiving more likes by spreading the posts out. So don't get into the trap of thinking, I've not been on Instagram for a while, I better go and post a whole batch of photos. It is better to stagger them and get into a regular rhythm. And what you'll find is that certain people that like your posts may well be browsing Instagram on their mobile at the same time each day too, and therefore they may also get into that regular rhythm of seeing your photos and liking them. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, and this is really important, and it took me a couple of weeks of using Instagram before I realised I needed to be adding hashtags. Because if you don't add a hashtag, nobody's going to see your image because it won't be discoverable. So what hashtags do is they add the discoverability. And it's very important that you sort of modify your hashtags and make them relevant to the type of post. So here you can see I've used hashtags on these 3 posts that are relevant to the image. So the picture in the middle, which was Neil Young playing in Hyde Park last year, I put hashtags related to Hyde Park, to musicians on Instagram, to Neil Young Live, Promise of the Real, which was the band that Neil Young was playing with at that concert. So I adapt the hashtags to suit. The photograph of the bee on the right hand side, I've got things like bees of Instagram. I've got macro insects of Instagram. I put on there the lens I use, my macro lens, a Sigma 105. The picture of the Pitstone windmill on the left hand side, I put there Pitstone windmill, hashtag Pitstone, hashtag Visit Britain, hashtag black and white photographs, etc. Hashtags that are relevant. You can add up to 30 hashtags to an Instagram post. And I would recommend you aim for at least 10. You shouldn't really have only 1 or 2 hashtags. You're not really going to add much to your discoverability. But certainly 30 is a long trawl to do, particularly as it makes sense to make them relevant to each post. There's no point posting colour pictures and then hashtagging it black and white photography. You'll just annoy people that are following that hashtag. And you're not going to gain followers as a result. So make the hashtags relevant to your posts and try and add, I would say, at least 10 to each post if you can. You can put them into the original post at the time you post the picture, and I used to do that all the time. But now what I do is I actually post a comment with the hashtags in. So there's a couple of reasons I do that. One is it just speeds up my process of posting, because I don't have to make that comment straight away with the hashtags in. I can just get on with the business of posting a picture and then later give myself a little bit more time to think, well, what hashtag should I be using? So it doesn't sort of delay that process. And the other thing is it just gives me time to sort of tweak those hashtags. I put them into notes on my iPad. I then browse Instagram looking for other relevant hashtags I could use, and then copy those into notes, and then copy the whole lot of hashtags into a comment. So it's just a slight change to my workflow, which I think is working out better for me. So tip number 3, add an image location. So you have the ability to add an image location as you post, and I would always do that. So if it's not a location specific image, if it's something I've just done around the house or in the garden or a local area, I'll just tag it with Harpenden, where I live. But if it's somewhere like Hartwood Forest here, or New York, if I've taken New York pictures, or other parts of the world, then I'll tag it with the country or the city where it's relevant. And again, that just helps the discoverability, because people can search for images by location. And in fact, they can, on my feed, if you saw this post on my feed, you could click on where it says Hartwood Forest, and then you would go to hashtag the tag for Hartwood Forest and see all the images that have been tagged with the location being Hartwood Forest. So it's a great way of discoverability for users of Instagram, and of your pictures being seen by more people. Tip number 4 is to tag any relevant communities. Now, this is something I'm terrible at. In fact, this is one of the images I've tagged the most communities ever, and there's only 5 on here. And in fact, I know photographers who will tag 10 or 20 different communities or businesses or hubs onto their pictures when they post them. And this basically is a way of bringing your image to the attention of those communities and businesses or hubs. So you have the chance of being seen and perhaps a chance of having your image regrammed and shared more widely. And as an example of that, I tagged, you can see here I've tagged Visit Hearts UK and IGEA's Hertfordshire, Instagram as Hertfordshire, on my Heartwood Forest post, and they both then went on to post that image to their communities. And in fact, these images got more likes by being seen in their communities than they did by being on just my page. So I've suddenly more than tripled the number of people that see my image by tagging them with those relevant hubs. So if you want to give your photos a wider reach, that's a great way of doing it, to tag people and communities and businesses that are relevant when you post an image. Tip 5, theme your posts. So specific themed Instagram feeds get far more followers than generalists, I would say. Unless you're famous or unless they're your friends, people tend not to follow photographers that just post random images. However, they do follow very widely people that are specific to a certain type of imagery. So photographers that are known for their imagery, perhaps they're wedding photographers or they're landscape photographers, or they only post cityscapes in monochrome or whatever, those types of photographers, it's quite easy for them to build up a community because it's a very singular subject and people tend to like that when they're looking at Instagram pages. If you're a generalist, and I'm a generalist, I love taking all sorts of photographs, people tend not to necessarily follow generalists because you don't always know what sort of image you're going to get. You don't know if you follow the guy because you like black and white images, but now they're starting to post colour images of food or something, then you might not want to see those photos in your feed. So people like to follow photographers where they have a sense of they know what sort of images that they like and they'll see. So what I try and do is I curate my images into themes. So rather than just post randomly from day to day, what I try and do is group them. So if I have some insect photos, close-ups, or I've got some cityscapes in black and white or some street photography in colour, I'll just kind of group them by theme. So right now on Instagram at the moment, at the time I'm recording this, I've been posting a series of pictures from New York, black and white pictures from New York, and I'll group all those together, and then I'll move on to a different subject when those are finished. But I'll tend to try and group everything themed by look or feel or subject, so that at least for a period of a week or a few weeks, my followers will know the sort of series of images that I'm posting. Tip 6, write about the image or tell a story. So written content can really help people to engage with your posts. Perhaps there's a background to the image that you can explain. Is the image reflecting your current mood and feelings? Perhaps you want to ask your audience a question. So this particular picture of the Angels of the Water statue in Central Park in New York, I just found this little piece of blurb on Wikipedia about the fountain. I thought that would make a nice bit of extra information to go with the post. It just helps your audience to engage a little bit more with you. I'm a bit rubbish at it actually, and so one of the things I like to do every now and again, and it clearly makes sense with a music post such as this image of Neil Young, I went and copied some lyrics from the internet on one of his songs. But using quotes or lyrics is actually quite a nice idea. I know lots of photographers who will post images and then they'll just put up sort of random motivational quotes alongside. And the quote might not have anything to do with the image at all, but it's just a way of starting a discussion or providing some extra sort of context to the image, or even just something that will hopefully engage with your audience. And your audience may just like the image, but they may really love the quote that's written underneath the image, or the question that's been posed, or the emotion that's been expressed. So think about what can go alongside your picture just to give it some context or to engage a little bit more with your audience. Make your post work a bit harder effectively. Tip 7, post into stories. So this is different to the previous one, which was create a story to go with the post. This one is actually post into the stories feature. So stories are those little circles that you see at the top of your Instagram feed. And they're created by the people you follow. And the content in there only lasts 24 hours. And that's great because it means that little circle gets very high levels of engagement. And why is that? Well, there's two key reasons. One, it's at the top of your feed. You can't miss it. So if you're the sort of Instagrammer who has hundreds of people that you follow, and therefore hundreds of new pictures appearing every day in your feed, you might not actually get to see pictures from all the people that you follow. But if they post a story around their image, that bubble will then appear at the top of your screen. So you have a much better chance to engage with it and for it to be visible. Not only that, because you know that content will disappear after 24 hours, if it's a photographer that you follow and you really want to see what they're saying, you're more likely to click on it because you know you can't just go back and see what that was in 2 days' time. That message or that post or that video will have gone. So the stories that appear at the top of your feed have extremely high levels of engagement. So I'll give you an example of where I might do this. And this is the Instagram feed of a friend who is a fantastic food photographer I met last year. And he posts these incredible images of particularly things like burgers and sandwiches. And it is a post from a day or so ago. This is some sort of amazing looking sandwich with there's probably egg in there and cheese and ham and all sorts, bacon. It looks amazing, doesn't it? So he posted that to his feed, and his followers will have seen that in their on their timeline. But additionally, he posted that image into his stories, and you can see that middle image there is how his story appeared. So it's the sort of full screen of a phone. It's a portrait mode for stories, and he added a caption on the top there. Everything is better with egg on it, and the background to the image was created by Instagram. So Instagram looked at the colours in the photo, saw that they were predominantly blue and yellow sort of colours, and then created this gradiated background. Now, because that story then appears on the top of my feed as that circle you see on the right-hand side. So although I may have missed Jim's picture in my feed, I no doubt would have seen it as the top of the story because it's right at the top of my Instagram page. And then finally, the 8th tip, and probably the most important one, is to follow, like, and comment on other people's Instagram posts. And I don't think it can be emphasised enough the importance of the like and the comment piece. Really, the best way to get more followers is to engage with them. And compliments do go a long way. So if you comment on posts, like other posts, you're more likely to get those photographers to follow you than if you don't do that, but you have the most amazing collection of photographs. So that's tip number 8. The most important one, I think, is just to engage with other people's accounts, and hopefully they'll follow you and they'll compliment and like your posts. So just as we finish up, I just thought it'd be worth spending a minute or so just to talk you through my workflow, because I process all my photographs on my iMac through using Lightroom, whereas I use the iPad actually to upload to Instagram. Unfortunately, even after 10 years of Instagram and iPads being around, Instagram still haven't made an iPad specific app. So the iPad actually has the iPhone app on it. So unfortunately, it's not perfect. But I use the iPhone app on the iPad to post to Instagram, but I process my photos in Lightroom. So how do I get the two to go together? So here's my workflow. I process the image in Lightroom. I export the image to Dropbox, and I have a folder in Dropbox called Instagram Pictures. So any picture that I think I'll want to put on Instagram, I just upload from my computer. I export it with my watermark on. I export it usually about 2,000 pixels on the longest length, and that just goes into a Dropbox folder. And then what I want to do when I'm looking at my pictures to post onto Instagram, I'll go to that Dropbox folder through the Dropbox app that's on my iPad. I'll browse and find the photo I want, and then I'll just hold that down, save that into the camera roll, and then I can post straight from the camera roll into Instagram via the Instagram app itself. And what I tend to do, because I said earlier I curate my photos into series and themes, what I'll do is I'll batch upload. So I'm doing a series of pictures right now as I'm recording this on New York, and I'm posting an image every day, a black and white monochrome image of New York that I took about 10 years ago. And I've got about 100 images that will eventually be in this series. I'm about halfway through, but all of those images are in that Dropbox Instagram folder that I mentioned. So they're all there. I have about a month's worth of images still to go, and that takes away a lot of the stress of finding an image. There's nothing worse if you've decided you're going to post an image every day to Instagram. There's nothing worse than that pressure of finding today's image. What image am I going to take? What image am I going to upload? So what I tend to do is I batch them into series, upload them all together into that folder, and then it takes away the pressure. I've got now the next 3 or 4 weeks, I haven't got to worry about which image I'm going to use. I just choose it from the folder I've already pre-filled, and then just have to work on what hashtags I'm going to use. So that's my workflow. Other people would do it differently, but that works for me, and it works pretty well. If you have any more questions that you want to know, just let me know. Put a comment in the comment boxes below on YouTube, and I'm very happy to reply and give you a bit more detail. I may even film another video to show you actually how it works. I could probably screen capture the whole process live for you to see how that works. Anyway, so I hope that was useful. I hope that's inspired you or removed some of the mystery of Instagram if you aren't currently a user. I recommend you get Instagram. It's a great app. If you don't want people to see your photos and you want to remain private, you can do so. I know lots of people. I've got lots of friends who are on Instagram, have never posted a picture. I can't see their profile because they've kept themselves private, but they still like my pictures and comment on my pictures, and that's great. And it becomes, because it's such a great tool for discovery of photographs, that it's even worth having Instagram, even if you don't intend to share photos yourself. If you're interested in photography, Instagram is probably the best way of finding photographs. At our camera club, we'll often discuss particular photographers, and we may browse Google Images looking for examples of their photographs or go to their website. But you actually find you can just put the photographer's name into Instagram, and you'll see hundreds, if not thousands, of posts where that photographer's image has been used, and you can very quickly browse the collection of photographs from almost any photographer in the world, probably. So, well worth checking out. I love Instagram, and I hope that presentation helped. Take care, and if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm @Steve Collins Photo. Take care.